Hey.
Hey.
Hi.
Happy Halloween.
Halloween.
Tanya, tell us about your outfit, your costume.
So, for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge fan of Brussels sprouts. And so my costume today is Brussels sprout fairy. I will stand back and allow you to look the full on.
Oh my God, it's so cute.
So,
Yay, I'm
yes.
wrestling.
Yes, every day I'm bristling. And so I have treats, I have chocolates for those who don't have good taste, and then Brussels sprouts for kids who do. So, yeah, they get a choice.
That's the most Bay Area thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Because the thing about it is Bay Area kids will be like, yeah, I do want those sprouts.
Roast
not my neighbors.
Like mom made.
Right.
Yeah. My neighbors will look at me like I'm crazy, and I'm looking forward to that. Just the education is good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I am in a hotel in Minneapolis. It's very weird. Curtains behind me. I'm here for the election. It's so funny. I'm always like, we're not gonna get political on this show. And then every week it's like some political shit. So here we are. I'm being political in Minneapolis. I was just like screaming on a mic and my voice started cracking. I was like, oh no, I have to save it. I have many, many things to say about General Hospital in Sprina. I have to save my voice. So I gotta go. So that's where I am.
Speaking of Sprina, I know this is not necessarily on our agenda, but I do hope you guys will allow for time to update me on what happened with Sprina Fest last week.
Always.
All right.
Without question. Do you want to open like that? Look, it's not on our agenda, but Sandra, do you want to tell us how you are? And then we can just like talk about Sprina Fest before we get into like the rest of it?
Sure. Always happened. Always happy to. I'm fine. I was trying to get a Halloween costume together last minute just for this. I went to Dollar Tree because I was hoping to find Nicholas's costume that he terrorized. They were out.
Scream is a very popular costume to this day. I don't know why.
But Dollar Tree Scream.
You got to be really specific.
Not the on brand. I wanted the Dollar Tree one. They didn't have it. And then I thought about wearing a trash bag and being Nicholas.
That would have been appropriate.
But instead, I decided to honor the traditions of my people, gay people, and use Halloween as an excuse to wear mesh and glittery eyeshadow. So, that's where I'm at. And it was a fine week. Mostly was really glad to have started last week out on the Sprina event, actually. Mm-hmm. Since we filmed before the event. Mostly I'm just really glad that everyone peer pressured me into going.
Yes.
Now you all also know that peer pressure is very effective.
If people don't know, I'm the person who like tweets from our account, and I have just been being real fucking boomer lately. Like I've been like tweeting from like the the podcast account, meaning to tweet from my personal, tweeting from my personal, meaning to tweet from the podcast. I'm like, what's going on? I'm over here acting like Scott Baldwin. Like it's just been really rough. And so, but yeah. Anyway, I tweeted for people to peer pressure Sandra to come to the Sprina event, and they did, and it was, I was pleased. I loved it. I know people love in-person stuff, but for the past like year and a half, I've really enjoyed Zoom. And so I was not disappointed, and I thought it was like very cute. I thought that Nicholas and Sydney had like very cute Zoom chemistry. And we will talk about this obviously later on in the conversation, but just like the way he rides for her is like on point. Like you can tell like he's like, oh yeah, I understand that I'm a legacy character and I came in here to be the captain of the Sprina ship. I'm about it.
Well, I know one of the questions was, are we going to see some one-on-one Sprina scene soon? And Sydney, you know, like took like a normal amount of time to answer, like kind of like paused, was like, yes. Nicholas was immediately just like, yes, it's happening. Like, I feel like that was he was just very excited in his responses to questions. I remember someone also asked like if there was any nervousness about the first kiss and like when it would happen or something like that. And Sydney, you know, was like, you know, it's, I think started to answer, and Nicholas was just like, no.
We'll be fine. It's great. It'll be great.
It's gonna be great. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. It just felt really clear that he and I have some stuff to say about this later on in the episode when we talk about some more behind the scenes stuff, but it just felt really clear that he understands that his relationship with Trina and his role as a romantic lead really like is central to the popularity and the success of his character, and also just seems to enjoy working with Sydney a lot. Mm-hmm. And I just, again, he continues to understand the assignment.
He does. I think because I also agree that like back when they were like kind of testing whether or not like Trina and Cam were gonna be like a thing, like the Trina and Cam kiss was like awkward because like they were traumatized and it was like, you know, like this very weird, it wasn't romantic. And so there was like all this like backlash, oh, they don't really have chemistry, oh, whatever. And I think that Sydney probably heard some of that. I actually don't agree with it. I think, again, like it was like a very awkward kiss placement. And so there's been like this talk about whether or not Sydney and Nicholas would have like good chemistry or like would the kiss be. And Sydney was kind of like, I'm grown now, actually. Like this happened a couple years ago. I was a teenager. Like no disrespect to William Lipton. Like we're friends. And also like, this is a prince. I got it. And then the other thing that I thought was really cute was that they'd asked them a question about like what they were looking forward to with the characters. And Sydney was like, our first date. And he was like, I'm looking forward to our first kiss. Like that is what I'm looking forward to. And so, yeah.
And then he started getting some like, he's like, well, it could happen like this, or it could happen like that. It was, I'm just like picturing him like writing his own little Sprina fan fiction. You know, Nicholas, it's always good to have like a backup career, and you could be a fan fiction writer.
Right. And he got an AO3 account. He's writing Sprina fanfic. And you know what? If Nicholas drops that link, I will read that Sprina fanfiction. Oh. Yeah, it was cute. And it was also really nice to see people who like, you know, we normally see like on Twitter. And so like I like on the Zoom chat, I was like, oh yeah, this is Tracy from Sunday Shift. And people were like, oh hey. It was like people who we, you know, get to interact with. And so that is like part of what I like about a virtual event, is that it's like this, you know, creating a community that we wouldn't, you know, if like this event was on the East Coast, like we would have loved to go, but we live in Oakland, so we're not going. And I also want to just say that like, and again, we're like continuing to preview some of the stuff that we'll talk about later, but it was like really great to see like this super diverse in age and race, like Zoom. So it was cool. I ended up getting the one where I was on camera, so I was able to ask a question. There was like another, like, I couldn't justify to myself to do like the like $50 more VIP. I was like, I gotta have a line. But I asked about whether or not we would see a college set, and they didn't. They I don't think so, which is a little disappointing.
Yeah, they were basically like, Nicholas was basically like, I would love that, and
no. Powers that be are not putting that type of expense.
Maybe if they sell enough like of the General Hospital glasses, they're like set it's selling online, and we'll get a college set.
Finally, you know? Get Trina and Joss's dorm room.
You know, I like to fundraise a little bit. One of my specialties around fundraising is the like getting people to see where the money would go. Like if you give this amount of money at this time, so if General Hospital hit me up, I'll help you like sell your PCPD baseball t-shirts and like wine glasses, if we can like set a deadline and a date, and that would be the money that goes to like a general hospital college set. Hit me up. I got y'all.
Awesome. So what happened this week on General Hospital?
Bam. Look at Tanya, look at that. Look at that segue. This is what happens when we're on week 8. We just ready. We're like so this week
I didn't watch. I watched.
This week was a lot happened and not a lot happened. So let's get into it. We started this week in Crete with Britt and Jason. One of the Cassadine goons thought he would shoot Britt, but Jason got him first because Jason got that shot. He does confirm that Liesl is on Cassadine Island, and Jason also tells Britt that he did not trust Anna when it comes to Peter, which I thought was interesting, and that they should stay and find her mom. Valentine is still at a Crete hospital. The doctor suggests he go back to the States for an exploratory surgery following the gunshot. When he struggles, Anna grounds him with some murderous Peter fantasies to calm him. And honestly, same. If you want to calm me, I'd also like some murderous Peter fantasies. So in her declaration of feelings for Valentine, Anna lets him know that her life would be boring without him and reminds him of his daughters, which, yikes. One daughter. He heads back to General Hospital where he gets a very sweet visit from Charlotte, and while Anna has a moment with Finn in the hallway, which, who does Anna not have chemistry with? Gladys turns up the annoyance this week. She is proving to be a messy assistant, but the tables turn when she gets to transcribe a recording of a meeting and finds out that Valentine is not Bailey's dad. Gladys makes sure BLQ knows that she knows and starts using it for leverage for shopping and spa days on the company card, which is really the most relatable thing Gladys has ever done. When she's confronted by Maxie and then by Sasha, she makes a quip about paternity, which Brando and Sasha think is about them. Gladys goes to visit Valentine in the hospital with a huge oversized stuffed animal, leaving us hanging on whether or not she will spill the paternity secret. Ned talks with Austin about Leo, and Austin makes it clear he is done with the Hughes. Austin also tells Valentine he's out and asks Maxie why she is still friends with BLQ. The Corinthos crew heads to Nina's court hearing. Sonny asks Carly if she was responsible for the charges against Nina, and when she says no, he responds that they probably won't stick because we helped a lot of people in Nixon Falls. Carly gave a very, I hear you saying we a lot, well, she's speaking French now, to Sonny look. And she continues to realize how little she knows about his time in Nixon Falls. Nina, represented by Scotty and supported by Ava, which is extradited to Pennsylvania, where she makes bail. Michael lets everyone know that he did this, but he's also surprised that his messy ass parents didn't do it first. Willow is upset that Michael is playing fast and loose with creating laws and with criminal law versus family court. She thinks Michael lied to her about going after Nina when it comes to Wiley, and catches up with Sasha, who reminds her that Michael is both a Quartermain and a Corinthos, but encourages her to go home and talk to her man. When Milo do catch up at home after an argument, maybe, I don't know what happened with them, Michael asks her to marry him, to which she basically says, not yet. She has been married twice, so she probably wants to slow that down. Jax talks with Nina, where Nina basically tells him to stop saving her. She also tells him that Sonny would prefer Carly not know about the Nina-Mike love story, and Jax says he will not be the one to say anything. Nina talks with Carly at the Metro Court and says that she is pulling Michael's strings and that Carly just hates that Sonny might have been happier in Nixon Falls without her. And they go back and forth about Nell. Cat Daddy Snooper has a run-in with Portia, where he asks a few too many questions and raises Portia's antenna, and she talks to Curtis about it. So she runs into TJ and Curtis. TJ is still talking about the patient that left from the hospital, and they realize that there's overlap and that might be the same person. In comes Sunny, fresh off of a collect call with Cyrus Renaud to warn Curtis about him. So we are getting Cyrus back. Violet, along with Aiden, finds a picture of Jeff Weber, aka Liz's father, who has been mentioned a lot lately. Liz says she doesn't have a close relationship with him. Finn tries to push, but later apologizes about it because Liz made it clear that she did not want to go there. And finally, those damn Cassadines. Nicholas visits Alexis in club prison, and when he is confronted about his role in Hayden's shooting, and he basically says, if you want to get free, you should stop asking these questions. Alexis is furious and tells Sean about it at the hospital, and it tells Nicholas and Ava about a very much alive Victor Sheffield Cassadine. And Nick tells Ava that he and Victor were mutually keeping each other's deaths secret. We see poor Spencer, poor as in no money, not poor as in we feel bad for him because we actually love to see him work at Kelly's. He tells Josh that he doesn't want Trina to see him working there, and asks them to move their study party. He serves Ava and Nicholas in one of my favorite exchanges. Nicholas is like shocked and maybe embarrassed to see him working there, which doesn't make any sense because Nicholas used to work at Kelly's, but that's neither here nor there. Sean realizes that this is his moment to capitalize and tells Spencer about his suspicions when it comes to Nicholas and Hayden. Spencer is in disbelief and ends the week confronting his father on the pier. Finn, tell me what y'all thought about this week. Ooh, I have so many things.
I thought Friday was the best episode. Yeah, there was some, as usual, there's some good things and there's some slow things. I actually was for the first time in a while really interested in what Gladys was doing. So even though she is an annoying character, when there's no drama, she's annoying. But when there is drama, then it's like, yes, please air out this dirty laundry because I'm so happy that you're finally doing it. So, kudos to Gladys and her messy ways. But yeah, overall, it was a pretty interesting week towards the end.
Yes, Gladys, when she has a purpose and a mission, is actually a very effective character.
Right.
I thought it was really actually pretty good for a filler week. Nothing too big happened, but there was plot progression and some new seeds planted for November sweeps and beyond. So it feels like a changing of the guard is happening slowly. And even though it wasn't necessarily a big week for my fave storylines, which are Cassadines, Vanna, and the teens, I feel like I left the week feeling optimistic, actually, about the show. Maybe course correcting is the word I want to use after a very weird and awkward 2021. I can't point to anything specific that made me feel that way. I just felt like I was not outrageously angry about at least the movement and the pacing of the show. So I feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt the same. I felt like things were moving forward. I think the same thing about Gladys. Gladys is interesting as a plot pusher because she's so messy, and so things are able to, when she has a purpose to move some things, and it's not just a filler. There are some people who are good at filler. I know people have a lot to say about Brando and Sasha as filler. I actually think that they're kind of cute, so I don't mind that. What I do mind is Gladys is filler because I don't want to see her unless she's doing something messy that moves along the story. So agreed. I thought it was an overall pretty decent week. I thought it was a good sweeps lead up week. Hopefully they continue some of the momentum into sweeps and we actually see some important things. Later when I do the deep dive, we're going to talk about how a sweep should be done. And so Yeah. So Tanya, would love to hear like what was your favorite moment of the week?
Oh, obviously the scene between Ava and Eggs Benedict. Um, you know, here she is trying to apologize to Ava and try to seem like she's being sincere. And then Ava, Ava was cool at first, was like, yeah, okay, I see how that could happen. I see how love can, mess with your mind and make you do things you don't want to do. And she's accepted the apology. Then it was at the very end where Ava as boss comes out and was like, mess with me again and you will regret it. And it was a weird, oh my God, this actress is so amazing because it took very little for her to look menacing, maybe like a slight twitch to the lip or a little bit and, a curl of the lip. And it was like one sentence, but I was just like, ooh, it was just like, you gonna get it. It was like, that's how, you gonna get it if you mess with me again. And I was just like, yes, this is what I wanted Ava to do to Esme for a while, because Esme has just been walking up to her saying, well, what she want to say, saying any old thing, calling her Ava like they're best friends. And Ava hasn't done anything really until that very moment. And she was like, yeah, don't come for me unless I ask for you. So that was my favorite moment of the week. I've had a couple, but I mean, that one was the number one.
Yeah, that was like high up in the running for me. I was actually, the whole scene, my eyes were like locked on Maura West because I was like, are you buying this? Are you buying this? Are you buying this? And her face was so impassive almost the entire scene. Like, you could not read her at all. And it was obviously a really intentional choice. But when she said that line, when she said second chance, and she looked at oh my God, I almost called her Avery because that's the actress's name. She looked at Esme's face and I was just like, okay, there's my girl. That's my Ava. I love it. Yeah, so good. Maura West, like just doing the most with the least always. What a queen. My favorite scene was Vanna in the hospital room. I mean, I know there was a lot of Vanna in the hospital room, but Valentina and Anna, specifically her doing the Peter torture visualization. It was so good. The hell you would rain down on him, the torment, the punishment, his cries for mercy, your refusal. I feel funny.
You're like, oh my.
I feel like that was a little not safe for work. Like, hello, daytime. That was very spicy. And I loved that Valentine said afterwards, after Anna was like, well, so how do you feel now? Wonderful. Fresh as a daisy. You two crazy kids, stop. But don't ever stop because I love it.
Ever stop.
Don't ever stop. I would have to say, to follow up, Charlotte's scene with her dad. Dad, do you have any friends? And then he imagined that sock scene. Whew.
And I appreciate the Vanna fans. You know, Sprina fans are notorious for like those eagle eyes, like they see every little thing. The Vanna fans were like, that kiss was a different angle this time. We got a different angle of that kiss. And I was like, we did get a different angle.
Yeah, I absolutely love that piece. It's so funny, I knew both of those moments were gonna be y'all's faves. So I was like, I'm gonna just leave that to my girls because I know what they're gonna do. My favorite moment was, I mean, again, put it on a loop. I'm a Spencer apologist. I love Spencer. And when he was like serving Ava and Nicholas, and like that very small part where when Ava was like, "Can I get another cup of coffee?" He was like, "Ava, you already have 4. 5 will kill you. Coming right up. Let's do it." Like it was it was it's just like those small things that I think when we talk about what is like moving the show forward, it is those small moments. Because of course we want like the big over the top, but one of the reasons that we love soaps is like the interactions between characters. And so that's one of the understated, like you got to kind of understand who these people are to understand and enjoy it. But when you do, you really do. So like another really small moment that I liked was when Charlotte was like eating the sugary cereal and was like, my papa doesn't let me do that. And then right, she had the big eyes. Like that's the kind of thing, if you don't watch the show, you wouldn't know. You're like, what does this even mean? But that actress making that choice to like make those eyes, like, oh shit, I never get cereal. Now I'm wired. Is like just like the small things, like small character things, that I really, really enjoyed. I don't know. Sandra, what do you want to see more of?
I want to see more of Spencer being poor. I love it. I love it so much.
He's a townie. I love it. It's so good.
It's
Townie
so
Spencer
good.
is.
It's everything I hoped for and more. I love that Cam is now Spencer's boss. And I feel like William Lipton and Nicholas Chavez work really well together. Like, I always enjoyed Nicholas Chavez, like, surprise. But my favorite William Lipton scenes are of when he's paired with the teens are Cam and Spencer. I think we get to see both of them play more into their comedic talents, which is a nice little sweet spot for them. And they're also able to play their vulnerability well in that relationship. And it's like such a nice contrast with their bickering, and it feels very familial. And I love snobby Spencer. Like I have a soft spot for that like snobby character archetype. So, you know, like they're so rich that they're clueless and unable to function in the real world. Like I love that character, that kind of character, like Lady Mary and the Dowager and Downton Abbey. Like Spencer's basically Lady Mary of General Hospital, or like the Bluths from Arrested Development. And so I know that this is a character trait that like some viewers, I guess, dislike about Spencer, but I unapologetically love it and I'm endlessly entertained by it. And it's very satisfying to also have to watch him swallow his pride and grovel. And it's part of what makes the archetype so satisfying, because inevitably those characters are forced to reckon with their privilege, and reckon with the world that they've been protected from. And so during the scene, I was just like, during the scene where he was groveling for the job, I was like, you get it, Cam, you get him. And I never root for Cam over Spencer. Like, y'all know that about me. Historically, like we're talking about since they were kids, I've been Team Spencer. This time I was Team Cam. And but there was also like Spencer begging and for the job and like having to put some sincerity behind it. Like I felt a little tug of empathy. And I think that's another thing that Nicholas Chavez does really well, is that he fully commits to the extremes of Spencer. And so, and we're just kind of like along the ride with him. And so we're going from like arrogant jerk to humbled busboy. And then, you know, I went back to laughing my ass off again when Cam made him practice Kelly's greeting. And he had that like, help me look in his eye that never quite goes away for the rest of the week. And so I just felt like all around it was like funny and satisfying, and I'm looking forward to more Cam and Spencer. And I am also really interested to see what happens to their relationship as Esme's plans for Cameron begin to unfold?
People are mad. I think that Cameron and Esme have a lot of chemistry, and I ship it a little bit. I mean, I also ship Esme and Joss, but that's also my own agenda. So
it's not just yours; it's mine too.
So I love it. I want to see more of people going off on Nina. Like, let me just get into it. Sandra was with me as I watched most of the like Nixon Falls like storyline unfold. And the whole time I was like, damn, this is wild. Who is Nina gonna like run to? Who's she gonna turn to with this over? Everybody's gonna turn their back on her. Like, this is like, she is so over the top. This is wrong. And to like see people, because I don't know, because they hate Carly so much or what, like pretend like Nina didn't do anything wrong. And I'm not talking, I mean, all of a sudden Twitter turned into like lawyers, and I'm like, okay, chill out, Marsha Clark. Like, it was fine, whatever, but she might not have done anything like legally wrong, but she was not right. It like I that is one of, I think, the most frustrating things. And so people were like, I saw this thing like, oh, should Nina be forgiven? And I was like, who has not forgiven Nina? The only accountability that she has is from Sunny's family. Every other person who should be mad at her is like, has like made excuses. So you think about like Maxie, she did not keep the secret to like protect James. She kept the secret to protect her relationship with Sunny at the expense of James.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm what's not clicking? Ava, you are telling me that Ava, one, is not mad at her, which she should be, and two, is going to like risk the kind of like very gentle truce that she has with Sunny and Carly to stand up for Nina, who cut Avery out of her body. Like, it's just such a very weird. There's a way that you can do an arc like this without it being as annoying for me as it is. So that we have people like online fighting about whether it was 6 months or 9 months. I'm like, I can't believe that is the most unbelievable thing y'all think of, or like whether or not it's actually a law.
Yeah.
Rick Lansing, after holding Carly in a fucking panic room, became the DA. So clearly we're playing fast and loose with what's legal here. Like, why are we, like, people say they want it to be more soapy, but then also want it to be like, you know, First 48, like, you know, Law and Order type shit. Like, it's very weird to me. And yeah, she's not sorry. Nina has not been sorry. She actually went back to work and like went back to her life as if stuff was not supposed to be normal. And I want to see people go off on Nina every time they see her. Just like Jocelyn, every time she sees Nina, it's on site, as it should be. Where is Christina to go off on her every time she sees her? This is what I want. And I'll say one more thing. Redemption arcs come when people hit rock bottom, and then it gets built back up. That's actually what makes redemption arcs like exciting to watch, interesting to watch, compelling to watch. And Nina has not hit that rock bottom. And it seems like from what is happening, she won't. And there's a way to like have her hit rock bottom while still actually being a good foil for Carly, because those actresses have like a very good kind of foil chemistry. But I want to be able to like root against Carly sometimes, or to be like, I see Nina's point. And there's been no exchange in which I've seen Nina's point. The idea that like Sunny was like happier in Nixon Falls. Okay, I bet you if you erased every fucked up thing I've ever done in my life and let me have a new start, I'd be happier too. You know what I'm saying? Like, Sunny made every decision that he has ever made as Sunny. He has not been manipulated by Carly or like other women to make decisions. So the idea that, oh, I was saving him or he was happier, sure, maybe. Like, he was happier when he didn't know he was like a mob boss / murderer and didn't have to take responsibility for any of his actions. Maybe. But that doesn't mean that like that's okay or that you did something right. Anyway, I could rant and rave forever. That's what I want to see more of. People going off on Nina. It should be on site for a lot of people with Nina, and it's just not. Anyway, Tanya, my anger comes out. Like it's on site for Nina.
Now, I agree. I think Nina needs to be held more accountable than she is. And that now to piggyback or to remind everyone, we talked about how we don't necessarily want to see stuff like this in the courts. But yeah, public opinion could definitely, she can get knocked down a peg or two. And because, she heard a lot of people, and she shouldn't necessarily be, relieved of that, anger so soon. And only from Jocelyn. I mean, almost everyone kind of had a stake in this, So yeah. What do I want to see more of? I just to reiterate, I kind of want to see more of Messy Gladys. I loved how I want to see, actually, what I want to see more of is Messy Gladys and Valentine, because Valentine's face every time Gladys was in the room was hilarious. He was like, Gladys, what are you doing here? Gladys, why are you here? And it was hilarious, and how she just ignored every clue that he gave that he did not want to talk to her. She just he was like, all right, well, I think I need to rest now. And she just sits down and be like, yes, you do, because you've been through a lot. But let me tell you, that was just like, that was hilarious. So I want to see more interaction between Valentine and Gladys. And I know it's probably going to be short-lived, because one day he's just going to pop off and shoot her ass. But it's entertaining, highly entertaining. So what do you want to see less of, Tracy?
I want to see less of Milo. I am coming out as a Milo fucking hater. I hate it. I tried to give it a chance, because at first it was just kind of boring and out of my face. It is awful. Like, Willow does not know Michael, and she should have stayed her ass with Chase and their wine guy. Now she's a live-in nanny, and she's boring. And it's, well, Michael doesn't give me, girl, who cares? Who cares? She's like, Michael, I thought we were family too. Pathetic. It's ridiculous. There are couples that get together like based on circumstance, and but they have chemistry in it, right? So like you can buy it. So like it's clear that like Milo was kind of like the long game from when like Willow came in, right? She was introduced, she was like in the grief groups with Michael, like they had the baby thing in common. And so it was like really clear that she was like introduced as maybe a long game end game for Michael. It's a soap, y'all. If they don't have it, if their magic is not there, like, this is a 20-something couple. Why is it that the almost kiss between some teenagers in Sprina and like the 40 and 50 somethings in Vanna is like hotter and more exciting to watch than like this really vanilla bland couple? And so they just don't have enough chemistry to justify the storyline they were given. So like the storyline with Chase, it actually doesn't make sense, because there's nothing about Willow and Michael's dynamic that would make you believe that she loved him more than she loved Chase. It's just not there. So I think about like, even with like cheating or whatever, I think about like couples we might not want together. Like I remember when like the Liz and Nicholas started sleeping together when it was like Greg Vaughn's Lucky. And I was like, this is wrong. But you know what? Becky Hurst actually does kind of have chemistry with everybody. I am not a Liz person at all. We'll talk about that. I think Liz is actually the worst. But Becky Hurst as an actress is great and has chemistry with everybody. And her and Nicholas were like kind of hot together. They were actually hotter than her and Greg Vaughn's Lucky were. So I was like, this is a mess, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? Listen. He's a Prince girl. Get your thing going. That's not what we're seeing with Michael and Willow. So like, there was just like literally, there was no way, and there's no reason to believe that they would be together in this way that's like so in love. They've just been boring. I want to see less of them. I want to see them break up. It's awful. It's the worst. I hate it. Tanya, what would you like to see?
And it's weird because unfortunately I have a little bit of the same as you. But I'm going to focus on a different aspect. I just don't want to see more of Willow whining. I mean, that was just ridiculous. Having a whole conversation with, her friend about, oh, Michael, he didn't put me into the conversation. He actually, he said one thing and did the other. And oh my God, I just don't know what to do. I'm just thinking, oh, I was like, stop it. Because then, when you're complaining to Michael about it, you're like, I would have agreed with you. I totally agree that she deserves this and all this other stuff. And she's just mad that she wasn't in on it. That's what she was mad about. And she's trying to find a place. It's like she's trying to insert herself into it. And it was just annoying. That whole conversation was annoying. So yeah, I want to see less of her whining. I want her to have her life.
Get a storyline.
Yeah, you talked about it last week. Be in nursing school, play with Wiley, just, try to navigate being the woman of the house. That's not necessarily the woman of the house, anything but whining about how good of a relationship you have. And you need to be grateful for it personally. But
I don't know about that, but
I mean, no, it's not necessarily a good but she's not in a drama where her mother is, pimping her out or, and she's not being harassed by so-and-so and all this stuff. She's looking for something wrong when she's in a quote unquote good relationship. And it's like annoying because, I wish I had a Michael in my life. And you know what?
I don't.
I'm just saying, you know what I find interesting kind of behind the scenes? Chad Dooley got married and was totally not vanilla in his wedding. I don't know if you guys saw the photos, but it was, I think that they called it Gothic Victorian, and his tux was red. It was all red and black. And I was like, that's not a Michael wedding. So, I mean, he probably has a better personality in real life than he does in character.
He would have to.
Yeah. So it was interesting.
He would have to. I mean, and the other thing is, to the point about Willow, there are things that they could do with her to make her less boring. And I'm not even saying, Michael was wrong. He did lie. He was manipulative. It was a sleight of hand. Oh, I'm not gonna go after her in family court, but I'm gonna get her ass locked up some other way. Of course, be mad about it, but also let's find something else for you to do, and also realize, when she was there and she came, I think this last one came in the room, and she's like, who are you? Girl, you ain't got no studying to do, nothing. You all have no business to have. Go on a girls' night with Terry and them. Go do something that's not this. It's just awful and boring, and an actress deserves better, in my opinion. Anyway, Sandra?
Thankfully, I've been trying to be more positive this week, and so y'all have taken most of my take, which was I also didn't want Michael and Willow. No more. Hate it. I think maybe from a slightly different angle, and that I was actually I'm always a little annoyed with Willow. She's just not the kind of character that I am normally drawn to. I don't like wholesome, nice girls. Especially, I could go deeper into that, but and talking about white women, but I won't. But I think that for me, I was really annoyed with Michael. His description of Carly and Sunny's relationship and him saying he wanted their relationship to be like Carly and Sunny's. This is everything he said is why I don't ship Carly and Sunny. I never have. Why I've never shipped Sunny with anyone. It's toxic trash. Do I love Maurice Bernard? Yes. Do I think Maurice Bernard is talented? Yes. But if my partner was describing their parents' relationship and said, I want this kind of relationship with you, I'd be like, hold up. And then to follow it up with a proposal to shut me up, to end an argument.
Yeah,
This is why I don't date men. This is why I'm gay, Michael. You made me gayer than I already was when I started the episode. Like, if I were Willow, I'd be having some big time buyer's remorse. I'd be like, where's Chase at? Where's Chase? Because all these things that she said that Michael did for her are all things Chase did for her first.
And Michael don't even wear no gray sweatpants.
And Michael does not even wear gray sweatpants. I'm also going to hold my commentary about the wedding ensembles because I'm trying to be more positive this week. I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. Great gowns, beautiful gowns.
So, on a more positive note, we're trying out a new section where Tanya will be sharing what her standout performance of the week is.
And you guys should not be surprised by this at all, because we have all said that we are Spencer fans in Sprina. And so I just want to give a huge shout out to Nicholas, because his performance this week was amazing. And for so many reasons, like, we got to see so many different emotions from him this week, where, you know, he was an embarrassed, spoiled brat because he finally had to get a job, but he was also kind of humbled and embarrassed because he didn't want Trina to see him working in a restaurant. And we all know that. I mean, even if he wasn't some rich, spoiled kid, we all don't want our crush seeing us in a spot where we're embarrassed. So I totally felt him on that. We saw him groveling for a job with Cameron. We saw him being angry and petty with his parents when Nicholas and Ava came in. We saw him, but at the same time, when Sean came in, was trying to start some trouble, we saw him be very proud Cassadine and trying to protect the Cassadine name, but he was also scared for what that might mean, that his dad might have actually done something really heinous. And we also found him to be angry and wanting to confront his dad on it. And so you saw all these different emotions come out from him. And that was just, I was amazed and in awe of his performance. And so he gets my standout performance of the week.
Well deserved.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
The other thing that we also found that we didn't say in the fan event is that this is his first acting job. He used to just sell cars. And when he's like, I would just come and kill it on this soap opera. You're welcome.
Yeah, when he did his podcast with Steve Burton, and they talked about, you know, his experience where he went to school and then what happened. So I think he didn't actually finish as far as walking down the aisle and graduating. He ended up going home just before the pandemic, and then his first actual job was working in car washes, but he would submit his video auditions all over, and then he finally got a hit with General Hospital. So yeah, it's truly standout. But he got trained by some really great actors, and so that's where those skills come from. So
yeah, and he's very intuitive too.
Mm-hmm.
Really learned on his feet, and you can tell that he's always looking to learn from his scene partners, no matter who they are. And I did feel like there was a shift in Spencer this week,
mm-hmm.
with his humbling, that we're seeing more of the kind of tone from Spencer that you see with Trina with more people. And as he's said in an article that we will discuss later on from TV Line, Trina brings out the best in Spencer, and they've played that really intentionally as like an acting choice. So it's interesting to see that start to come out in scenes with other people. So really
and then in contrast, him and Elphaba, she brings out the worst in him, where, you know, all he seems to talk about with her is how pissed he's off at Ava and how angry he's off and how he can't stand Ava and all that. It's almost like he's putting more on it than he actually feels, because it's like a show. He's like, oh my God, I can't stand that Ava's here and she's so this and she's so that. And even now she's looking at him like, really? Or you need to be over this, but he's like putting it on hella strong. And so, but that's the only way the worst part of his character comes out in front of SB.
We match the energy of the people that we're around, and that's the energy he has to match.
Exactly. So, Tracy, if you guys don't have any other comments, I want to hear this deep dive into 2007. I'm super excited.
Yes. So I was like really thinking about how the show, when I first started watching it, I was thinking about sweeps as like a concept, how it used to just be a thing. And GH used to do it very, very well. So in 2007, for February sweeps, there was a Metro Court hostage crisis. So much happened. Every single character on the show was involved. And that is, I think, one of the best parts about it. That whether you were there or not, you either were there or somebody that you loved was there, period. And so that was why so much fallout happened from it. So there was a fundraiser at the Metro Court, and then the lobby of the Metro Court was like taken hostage by James Craig, who we later found out was Jerry Jacks. So Lorenzo Alcazar had a briefcase at the Metro Court with something Jerry needed inside. It had a special code that if you didn't hit it every 24 hours, like it would explode. So Alcazar starts having these seizures due to a brain injury from the time he was shot by Sonny. And so Sky had to take him to the hospital. Sky, formerly Chandler, now Quartermain, aka Alcazar's baby mama Violet Ray. And at this time, Alan's daughter. And so he is able to give the first 3 digits of the 6-digit code, but he cannot remember the rest before surgery. So Jerry and his folks thought they were going to be in and out. They thought it was going to be like a 5-minute deal, whatever. But Sam hits the panic button and it locks down the vault with the briefcase. And so Maxie and one of the kind of whatever hostage takers get stuck in this vault. And we got some really amazing like Maxie stuff where she's like scared and she's also a mess. And she, like, it's like peak Maxie. And I actually wish they would bring a little bit more of that back. So because they have to stay in the lobby longer than they meant, Jerry starts like tormenting people. And one of the things he does is he shoots Robin. And it's really interesting that everybody tries to help her. And even Carly. And when Patrick finds out, he's supposed to be like operating on Alcazar. So it's all of this like angst about whether he'll save Alcazar, what he'll do, how he'll do it. Spinelli and Jason sneak into the building, as well as Lucky and Luke. Jason knocks out a gunman, and he dresses in the outfit to get in the lobby to like watch over his like friends and family. We also see Lulu being a very annoying hostage. It actually reminded me that even though I liked Julie Berman, I actually don't think I've ever really liked Lulu. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Like I find her to be an over-exaggeration of Luke and Laura's kid in the same way that BLQ is an over-exaggeration of what a Quartermain is. And so it was like interesting to go back and remember that. So Spinelli is like also then taken hostage because Lulu refuses to run. And like he convinces them that he can open the safe early. The police are like outside because there's no negotiation. Everybody, you know, throughout the town is like revolving door coming in to like talk about how they're gonna help. So at this point, Alan has like multiple heart attacks, and Liz like maybe is going into labor. This is when she's pregnant with Jake, by the way. And so they also can't overhit the gunman because the lobby is wired and detonated to explode, but they don't know which one of the gunmen have a detonator. And I think this is important because so often right now, we are seeing people not trust the writers to like close loops. or like when the 6 to 9 months thing has like recently happened, people are like, oh my god, freaking, because they just haven't shown like the same level of care. And so there was a real level of care to like answer questions like, if it's all of them, why doesn't Sunny like run up? Like, it's because they have this detonator, right? And then it's used to advance like so many storylines. So Alan ends up dying. Jason finds out the paternity of Jake. Because when the lobby actually does explode, and like the fallout is like, some people leak, get out, some people get stuck in the building. Jason had pushed Liz out of the way, and they ended up getting stuck in an elevator together. Also shocking to remember, because like I'm an OG Jay Sammer, just so folks know where I stand. And I remember during that time, like Sam was so kind to Elizabeth during the crisis. Like, she was kind of like, oh, I'm gonna push you out of the way, or when this is over, you go run to Jason, because Jason will make sure you get out. Like, it was like a very kind relationship that Sam was having to Liz, and I was like, look at what you did to her. And like my J Sam heart was coming back to me. I don't feel the same way about the ship now. It's kind of been ruined for me, but when I watch the old stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I loved it so much. So other things that advanced was, it was the start of Sam being a hero. Do y'all remember when she had a show? It was called like Everyday Heroes, that she'd be like a talk show host. This was like the catalyst for that. It had a direct connection to the text message killer, and Maxie making horrible decisions with men, because the man that Maxie was stuck in the vault with, they became friends. So she helped him like escape detection. And I mean, like, this is a whole nother deep dive we could do, but basically, she helped him get a job. Sunny found out who he was. Sunny like blackmailed him to go work for the PCPD. When the text message killer came around, everybody thought this guy, and his name was Cooper Barrett. So there was all of this speculation that he might be related to Brenda, which never panned out. So when Sunny found out who he was, made him go work for the PCPD, text message killer storyline happens. He gets framed for it. And then he was going to run away with Maxie, and the text message killer killed him and made it look like a suicide. So all of that was like a fallout from that storyline. And then we saw relationships. So we saw Carson at the time. Carly was actually supposed to be with Jax, but she married Sunny to like stop having to testify against him. And Sunny wanted that old thing back. So he was like really trying to get back with Carly, while she was like, nope, I'm trying to be with Jax. We saw a lot of like Liz and Lucky, Greg Vaughn's Lucky. So, I feel differently about that Lucky situation. We also saw the triangle between Dylan, Georgie, and Lulu. I actually really hated it. I felt like the way they did Georgie was so out of pocket. Anyway, we saw Sam used to work at the front desk of the Metroport. I forgot about that. And then the other thing I'll say, and then I'll pause for y'all to like give feedback. I also forgot about the Carson relationship with Lulu. Carly was so protective. I forgot how close they were. Because like you don't see that anymore. Like Carly it didn't even register to Carly that Lulu's in a coma now, this current iteration. They were so protective. Sunny like wouldn't let Lulu go. He was like very protective of her. He was like, I can't do this to Luke. And it actually reminded me of how mad I was at Lulu over like the storyline with Dante. So like when she found out Dante was a cop and was like trying to take Carly and Sunny's family down, I was like, they used to like really love you. Like you never really heard Carly talk about Lucky as her cousin, but you always heard her talk about Lulu as her cousin. And she constantly throughout the whole thing was like, where's Lulu? Where's Lulu? Where's Lulu? And so, yeah, I just thought it was like exactly how you do a crisis. So much fallout, so much investment. It wasn't like jumping from scene to scene or frame to frame in a way that like showed you a different storyline. It was just like different pieces of the same storyline, which is what made that sweeps So interesting. And I was on the edge of my seat. I've watched this, so I knew what happened, but I was like, what is about to happen? I forgot about all of this. And I think that's like also the marking of a great sweeps or a great event, when people who have already seen it are rewatching it and then they're like, I forgot, or are able to like see different things. So anyway, what do y'all remember about the crisis? What do you think about sweeps and how we should go back to, or if we should go back to storylines like that?
Yes. Answer is yes. I went back. I watched some clips from it when I knew that you were choosing this storyline. I didn't go too deep in because there are a lot. We spent a lot of time on this Metroport crisis, and I wish that we would do that now with sweeps, where everything kind of comes together, everyone in the same place with something big and juicy happening. It really brings people together. A hostage crisis really brings people together. Mostly what I remember, or what like came up for me, was Jerry, the Superior Jax. I miss him. That's it. I would love for Jerry to come back, but that would also mean storyline for Jax. So, but
I mean, would it though? Because
right. Well, bye, Ingo. That's what I have to say about that. It's October 31st. Tomorrow is November 1st. So nice knowing you. And November 1st, for those who don't know, is when the GH vaccine mandate kicks in. So Alan dying, the biggest mistake of the storyline. Killing Alan was just not the right move. All the ghost Alan stuff was not the same as having Alan, and also very strange. I love I love some supernatural whatever. Like, if they wanted to bring vampires back again, I'd be down. But no. It was like the beginning of the end of the Quartermaines with Alan dying. So I didn't like that. But I had also forgotten that this is where Sweet Sam came from. Like, Jerry always calls Sam Sweet Sam, and I forgot why. And it was because when they were playing that game, like, he's playing a little mind game with them.
It was an icebreaker.
Yeah, he was playing like a theater icebreaker with them, where they had to toss something around and catch it and say their name and something like to describe them. And if they dropped it, he would shoot them. And Sam said, Sweet Sam, because she was trying to she didn't want them to know that she's actually anything but sweet. Killer Sam, she'll fucking kill you. So I also forgot that this was when the Georgie Lulu Dylan storyline happened, and I was like, oh yeah, I hate Dylan. I forgot. Fuck Dylan. How could he do Georgie this way? Anyway, that's my takeaway.
Yeah, Dylan was a jerk. Lulu was annoying. Well, I guess Lulu was annoying throughout the whole time, but because she was just kind of like the goody two-shoes foil to Maxie. And I actually found myself rooting for Maxie, even though Maxie was hella problematic. But I just liked her a lot better than Lulu.
Unapologetically.
Yes. And so, yeah, totally feel you on that. Also, remember, this was the introduction of Scotty's son. We all forget that one of those boys was Scotty. I think turned out to be Scotty's son. And he ended up
Logan?
Huh?
Was it Logan?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I did like that whole, foursome thing going on between the good guy and Logan, the bad guy, who didn't turn out to be so bad after all. But it was, that was great. And yes, Jerry Jax, the better Jax. And I think that was kind of I think he and Alexis started hanging out and dating, and that was the start of Alexis dating bad boys. Well, no, she dated Alcazar too, right?
Rick. I mean, she was
And had a
with
baby with
Rick.
Sunny.
She was
Yeah,
with Sunny. It's not the start. It's the
not the start, just a continuation. But I think he, outside of Julian, I think he was like one of the better, relationships. So yeah, there was a lot of good storylines that came out of that.
Yeah, because Alexis at the time, I forgot, had cancer. So she had like left the hospital because Sam and Nicholas were like, both there. And it also reminded me how much of a waste it is that Sam and Nicholas don't have a better relationship. I mean, Nicholas is trash for sure. But like Alexis loves them both, and we've seen little sprinklings through other stories that they should actually like be in better relationship to each other.
Yeah,
and they're not.
Was that around the time that Alexis discovered that Sam was her daughter?
No, this is a little bit after. Yeah.
They've never had a very established relationship. I was going back and watching old Nicholas clips because I was trying to refresh myself about Hayden, which I don't know why I bothered, because there's no continuity between what was happening in the storyline then and what's happening now. But I forgot about there was a big fallout between Nicholas and Sam over Drew. And there was this whole scene where she was like, I'll never forgive you. And like, I was like, oh, so y'all are like actually acknowledging that you're family? This would have had more impact if you all actually had a familial relationship.
I mean, that's what pisses me off about the whole Sam not remembering Nicholas had anything to do with it, because there's a specific scene where she and Drew go to Nicholas and be like, we know you shot Hayden, and Drew punches Nicholas out. And it was like, no, not just punches, beat his ass like in his own house. And so how could Sam not have any memory of that? It was just like ridiculous. So that whole rewrite of history was crazy.
I feel like Spencer was the only one who didn't know. Like the half the cast knew.
Yeah, I think Laura knew.
I was like, Laura.
Yeah. Yeah, I would also love to see them lean more into Sam being a Cassadine. I think I would just like that to happen, because right now the only real story she has is like bringing Drew back home. Like Sam used to be. One of the things that made me a J. Sam fan was like being a fan of Sam, because Sam was interesting as a character. Sam was like a scammer, and then so like she always had her love interest, and she was messy with her love interest, but she always also had a life. She was a PI. She, all of these things, and so I would love to see her come back and like lean into being a Cassadine and have some other things going on.
I love Adventure Sam.
And then the other thing that this brought up for me, because I've seen people say like, oh, GH has too many characters, or like whatever. I actually don't think that's true. I think that what they don't have is a good way to intersect the characters. And so I think some of that was COVID, and so people couldn't be in the same place. And I think that we're remedying that a little bit, like seeing the Savoy, seeing Kelly's, and seeing the Metro Court be such launching pads for people having conversation and then walking over to have another conversation. But that is actually what makes soap soapy, is to like the intersecting relationships, and like the mess going on over here and the mess going on over here actually have something to do with each other, and we haven't been having that. And so my hope is like, as vaccine mandates roll out and like they relax certain things, we have more people being able to be in scenes together, we'll see a little bit more intersection of storylines. It also was like a reminder as to why Nixon Falls was so bad, is that it was so disconnected from everything else. And you actually need to have like a home base and a connection and establishment with other characters to make something interesting.
Totally. I mean, I think that the Sunny storyline, Sunny, Mike, whatever storyline, is so much better now, in part because they're not in Nixon Falls, and you're getting to actually see other characters interact with the storyline and react to it, even if it's not always the reactions that we would were satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep going back to when I kind of like did like the rewrite, which is like I think this is like maybe the first show or second show that we did. But yeah, especially if like the fallout with Nina is what the fallout like. So if the fallout would have Nina would have been she was a pariah and nobody talked to her, like then what we saw would kind of make a little bit more sense. But the current fallout I think would have actually been better served if Sunny would have been in town and like had amnesia, and then she like kind of snuck around with him and fell in love with him, because the level of pushback she's getting from everybody who's not in the Corinthos doesn't match the level of what she did. And so it would have been nice to, if that was going to be the case in the fallout, to at least be able to have had Sunny home, and see that angst and that play out.
There you go.
So I am looking forward to, because I know Tracy, you are ready. I want to hear some of your hot takes. You got a list, but I want to hear it.
It's so long, and I know that we can't be here forever. So we can actually start with like addressing kind of the Sprina hater situation, because you know. So there's a lot of things, but the reason that we bought it here is so there was a Nicholas Chavez interview that he did in TV Insider where they asked him about his hobbies, what it was like to work with Maura West, and like a possibility of pairing with Brit, which fans have, called spit to migrate the light. And what they didn't ask him about was Sprina. And that is because they're haters, but also because Nicholas is the captain of the Sprina ship. He brought it up on his own. So now you might think that they like just didn't have time, or because Nicholas like answered it, they like just moved on. No, that's not what happened. The author was basically like, oh yeah, I was gonna ask, but we ran out of time. So you ran out of time for a popular ship. You ran out of time to talk about like the pairing that is making him a romantic lead, but you didn't run out of time to talk about him and his like old stepmom. So I'm gonna just read what he said, and then I'm gonna let Sandra, because like we had a hot take. He said Spencer becomes his best self whenever he's around Trina. That is due to a lot of different factors. The first time Trina met Spencer, she liked him, and that wasn't because of his money or his status. She didn't know who he was. That gave him a confidence boost. Also, Trina has been given Spencer advice that he couldn't get anywhere else. She gives it to him straight. Nobody else really does that. And there's a deep physical attraction too. Spencer thinks Trina is pretty and he wants to impress her. It's the combination of those three major things and a lot of other stuff. So I'll pause there because I think that Sandra had a very hot take for us.
Very. Well, first, the follow-up question that he asked after Nicholas said that, because like the question that had been asked that prompted Nicholas to bring up Trina was about his redemption arc. Like the interviewer was like, everyone loves a redemption arc. Will you speak more to that? And that's when he talked about Trina. And then the follow-up question was about chess.
Do you play chess?
Yes, y'all. We all know Nicholas Chavez plays chess. He talks about it in every interview. Move on. Like, actually talk about the substance here. Like, so that you're just a bad interviewer. If you had, like, when you interview someone, you have a set of questions that you work from, and you don't just ask them in the order that you wrote them down. If someone brings up one of the things that you were going to talk about, then you ask a follow-up question then. So I'm going to also recenter. So Nicholas Chavez is very talented. We talk about that at length, basically every episode. Period. Complete statement. And he knows that a large part of his success is due to the Sprina pairing, and by extension, Sydney and Trina. He basically said as much at the event with him and Sydney. And so the fans who have been rocking with him since the very beginning are by and large very loyal and vocal Sydney Trina fans. And that fan base has adopted Nicholas, basically. From the beginning, very vocal, loyal supporter of him as well. And I don't have, census data on this, but the fan base has a lot of Black women in it. And so as Nicholas explained in the article, right, we were just talking about this, the redemption arc is literally built around Trina. Not his dad, not any of these white women. Trina. Say it with me. Trina. Thank you. And as
we do love a call and response. We love that.
We do love a call and response. And as Nicholas has also named, Spencer's at his best with Trina. And this is why he, as an actor, is able to fully commit to Spencer's like more devious side that we see with Ava or with Esme, because he has that connection with Trina to keep viewers grounded in why we root for Spencer. So without Trina as a primary anchoring relationship, it would be that much harder for him to strike that balance. So there's not another character besides Trina on the canvas that can provide that for Spencer. It's not just about who Spencer is with her, but it's also who she is as a character. She's grounded, loyal, straight shooting, funny, all of which Sydney has been portraying for the last 3 years and building this character to be this. So him getting to play romantic lead opposite Sydney Michaela, a stunning, talented young woman who is beloved and charismatic, is a huge opportunity for Nicholas as an actor. And he knows it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I love seeing him flex his skills with these daytime vets, like with Maura West in particular. He does have chemistry with everyone. Like he has chemistry with Maura, he has chemistry with Maurice, he has chemistry with Kelly T-Bald, who plays Britt. Like, yeah, sure. And his daytime Emmy buzz is very well deserved. But his viability and appeal as a character is also hinged on him being a romantic lead in combination with being an anti-hero. So he wouldn't be able to do this stuff if he wasn't paired with Sydney specifically. And I just appreciate that he acknowledges that, and I need for other people to acknowledge that as well. And I need for the press to acknowledge that. And I need for fans to acknowledge that.
So let's talk about it. Because I jokingly was like, oh yeah, we're Trina's aunties, ha ha ha. But I say it because of what fandoms do. What fandoms do to women, what fandoms do to women of color, and what fandoms specifically do to Black women. And we've seen this through the soaps. We've seen this through superhero shit. So I think a lot about soaps. Years ago, we had the pairing of John, if you watch One Life to Live, John McBain and Evangeline. And so as Sandra has pointed out many, many times, white supremacy is like fucking boring and it breeds boredom. And what happened was we had this hot ass relationship between Evangeline and John. It was steamy. People who didn't even watch the show would see it like, oh, she look good together. And then for whatever reason, they wrote John with Natalie and that was boring. I mean, shout out to, the actress who went to go play Evangeline, who is now, known for Hamilton, is the shit. Just be really clear that she's amazing. But it was Daytime's loss and One Life to Live's loss. And part of it, I mean, it wasn't Twitter, but it was definitely message boards. And people were mad this Black woman was with this white man who was like destined and pegged for this white woman. That happened. That 100% happened, and the soaps leaned into it. And so I'm really glad and I'm really hopeful the General Hospital will not do that because they see the strength of Sprina. And then I think about like superhero stuff. I was just talking to Sandra about what happened with Kelly Marie Tran and how they didn't protect her in Star Wars. We see that Brie Larson was not protected and has not been protected in the Marvel universe. So you think about like anytime somebody says something about Chris Pratt, even as a fucking joke, when they're like, oh yeah, that's the Chris we get rid of, in a joke, the rest of his like fucking male co-stars form like Voltron to protect him. But then when women actually get attacked, when Brie Larson was getting attacked, they had nothing to say, no way to support her. So we see this, and so when we say things like we're Trina's aunties, we say it because we know that this is what happens. Especially, I mean, I don't like the way people talk about Joss.
No.
And this is like a blonde, a blonde white girl, and the way they like, it's like very gendered. I think people sometimes don't understand that when they call Carly shit like Cujo, like I don't like comparing women to dogs, and then like calling the actress that plays Josh baby version of that. So you basically call this like teenage girl like a baby dog. Like it's just, I don't fuck with that. I don't like that, and I think people should stop. And I also know that a little Black girl is gonna get it even worse. Like it always happens. And so I'm thinking about The Flash. If anybody watches The Flash, Candace Patton is like the Black woman actress on that show. And so she came in as Iris West, who was traditionally a white woman in the comics. And they specifically told her, yeah, don't read them comments, because that's how bad she got it. It was a wasteland in her mentions. People, it was awful for her. Awful for her. And so then as like time went on, like the actor Grant Gustin, who plays the Flash, the lead, like a couple of years later had posted this thing like in support of like the LGBTQ community, right? He's like OG theater person. He's like made some comments about how race doesn't matter. He kind of got run off Twitter for it, to be clear. And so like people were like, yeah, that's right. Like you absolutely should stand with this community. And people came at your co-star wild, and you said nothing. You said nothing when people came at Candace. And so then he was like, oh, well, I don't have time to like look for trolls, but I'll do better. And finally he came out with a video like, Iris is like an African-American, is played by an African-American actress. She's Barry's endgame, and like really stood for her. But it would have been better had he stood for her when the show started. Because the other thing that was happening is people said they wanted the comics. Iris is Barry's endgame in the comics, but they started like shipping him with the other white woman on the show, which made no sense. And so we are seeing some of that same bullshit play out on General Hospital, where people are now like trying to ship Spencer with Joss or with Britt or with anybody else besides the Black girl, which doesn't make any sense because of all of the reasons that Sandra laid out. And so when Sydney, Michaela, and Trina were kind of like the like sassy friend, people loved her. Oh, she's so funny, ha ha ha. And as soon as like they started pairing her with William Lipton and like maybe having a Trina Cam romance, people were like, oh no, that doesn't work. Of course not. No, we could never. He's supposed to be with Jocelyn. He's always had a little crush on Jocelyn. And so then Jocelyn got paired with him. And then all of a sudden, here comes the come up of Sprina that everybody loves, that gets attention, that's this pairing that people like. And now it's, oh, no, we can't have that. Actually, Spencer's always like Joss, and that's where he should be. And so it's not that you can't like, ship different characters, but it's like the understanding that this shit happens every time and we see it, and we can't be silent about what happens in this, because this is actually not just about like a character on a show, it's about how people treat and don't protect Black girls.
Yeah.
So that's my hot take.
Yeah, it's like, I'm so tired of having this conversation about Sprina and about Trina and about Sydney. Because like I mostly want to talk about things that I love. Right. And so like this is like not the way that I want to be talking about her or the characters. But if someone's disrespecting Sydney and or Trina, we're gonna throw down. We're gonna keep talking about it every fucking week if we have to. And I think one of the things that keeps coming up is everyone having their little sidestep moment when one of the fans dares to bring up, like, maybe you're doing this because you're racist. Like, maybe you're agenda shipping Spencer with these white girls that he liked when he was 10. You know, I don't understand. Why are we going back for receipts from these characters when they were like 6 years old? I don't understand. Who cares? That doesn't have anything to do with anything. If like who someone was with 10 years ago who was an adult doesn't really matter, why does it matter about kids? It's very weird. But also like, there's a sidestepping that happens. It's like, oh, it's not about race. Oh, I just forgot to ask the question. But we actually know that like unconscious bias is not innocent. It may be unintentional, but it's not innocent. And if you have a platform, right? If you're a journalist, a blogger, but even if you have a public facing social media, there is, or at least I feel a responsibility to check my own bias before I start commenting on people outside of my own community. And I just feel like there's so much gaslighting that also happens when fans become upset around like criticism around Sydney or like erasure of her from the storyline, that I just want to name that that's what it is. It's gaslighting. Like people have the right to be upset because this is not just something that happens on GH, and it's not just something that happens on TV. It's something that happens in the world every day. And people should just be able to enjoy their fandom and the characters that they love without having to deal with microaggressions. And it also reminds me, I just kept getting this feeling about this topic with GH and Black women, where I'm like, GH is like the Democratic Party. It's like, you need Black women, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't have all these characters. And you wouldn't be playing up Trina the way that you do and like benefiting off of her. But where is the support when election day is over? That's what I want to know.
Oh my goodness. I can't even, y'all know the trials and tribulations I've been dealing with the Democratic Party in California. You guys spoke to everything that, you know, I've been dealing with politically. And so that's why you guys may be wondering, like, Tanya doesn't have a lot to say on it, because I've been dealing with my drama in the Democratic Party, and it's just enough that I get to watch the show. And I just want to remind people, you know, just because you find yourself, you think that you're liberal, you think that you're above all the, racism stuff, you're not, because you're going around making, these really weird statements about how, Trina, shouldn't be with Nicholas, and you have bias, you have unconscious bias. Learn about that, check yourself, and do better, be better. The characters are clearly meant to be together. I mean, yeah, they're gonna go through a rough patch right now, but they have chemistry, they have everything, and so we need to support that and love that and enjoy that. And the actors seem to enjoy it. Why can't you understand? So yeah,
I think it's really interesting how like these people claim to be fans, right? Fans of Nicholas, or fans of Eden, even of Eden McCoy, and at the same time, like, are wanting their characters to be put in these like fucked up scenarios, like the Spencer and Britt stuff.
That's just gross.
Like, I love a May December romance where like the older character is a woman. Like, obviously my crushes are well documented on like Ava, Olivia, Anna, like all women who are at least a decade, if not more, older than me. So I'm into that. But that was his stepmother. And it's not technically illegal, right? He's 18. Like, people,
right.
He's 18. It's not technically incest, blah, 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 whatever. It's grooming, y'all. That's what it is when you have a relationship with an adult and then you turn 18 and you have a romantic relationship with them. So it's actually like incredibly predatory. And I don't know how you could be a fan of Spencer or a fan of Britt. I'm actually a fan of both those characters and ever want that to happen. It's not edgy, it's not soapy, it's actually exploitation. And what would be happening there actually isn't, they're very much different from like what happened to Willow in Shiloh's Sex Cult. And in 2021, that kind of storyline belongs in the trash, just like Luke and Laura's relationship belongs in the trash.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with my line in the sand being sexual exploitation being played as sexy or romantic is unacceptable. I'm very, very comfortable with that. So maybe that makes me a Debbie Downer, but I'm okay with that. Y'all
Debbie
gross.
Downaway. Debbie Downaway. That shit is nasty. Because it's also like, it's also not like, oh, what if, because we've seen Ava have like that kind of romance, right? So what if it was like, it's not even a conversation of like, what if he got with Ava? Which I think is still weird, but she never had.
Oh, they've tried to do that too.
Yeah, but it's not the same. Like it's a very intentional, what is the thing that we can do to keep him away from Trina, to stop this relationship from happening? And it's not soapy because it's not a soap thing. And even if it is, there's like a very intentional way that people are trying to misunderstand when fans tell them this is what y'all are doing. When fans are like, hey, maybe you're like trying to erase the Black girl, there, to your point, it's like this gaslighting and being like, no, I would never. And it's like, actually, you definitely would, and you definitely just did.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah. And so thankfully and hopefully we continue to see Nicholas Chavez like stand for her and do for her what Grant Gustin should have done for Candace Patton, if we're going to be really honest, at the very beginning. So that's my take on that. And we will continue to be on GH's ass if we see them not doing our girl Sydney Michaela right, because we don't play around like that.
I have a transition hot take, which is that it has to do with Sprina, obviously. I love that I don't love that Sydney hasn't been on the last 2 weeks, but I love that even though she hasn't, people are still talking about Sprina. And they're still like, Trina's still important. Trina's still at the front of the conversation and still driving storyline, even when she's not around. And so, yeah, she's gonna have her haters because she's doing amazing. Because she's really important.
Mean, as Beyonce would say, you know you're that bitch when you cause all this conversation.
Yes. I liked that little interaction with Joss and Spencer at Kelly's. So that's when Joss name's like, oh, like keep my tab open because Trina's meeting me here. And unfortunately for Trina and Sprina fans, that didn't happen. But fortunately, it's because Spencer asked Joss to meet Trina elsewhere. And he was so sweet and embarrassed and bashful. It was very cute. And so this is the first time that he talked about Trina since she dragged him at Windermere, which amazing. And even though we haven't seen her since she visited Spencer at PCPD, it's clear that she's still on everyone's mind, especially Spencer's. And I think I like this because it was such a big contrast to the overly confident Spencer who just like pursued the hell out of Trina this summer. Mm-hmm. Like when, he ran into her and he teased her about stalking him and like suggested they turn the pier into a French nude beach. He's not the same kid who could drop his name at Paris Fashion Week or throw an extravagant party on a private island to impress his crush. His friend. He's a disinherited nobody, in his own words. Awaiting trial, and Trina, the person whose opinion he cares about most in the world, called him a filthy lying liar who lies so much she's not even sure he's capable of telling the truth ever about literally anything. You know, so he's pretty dejected.
And he's not handsome.
And he's not handsome. That's not true, obviously. He's very handsome. And I also, it's, you know, like, in contrast to how things are in the real world, where obviously basically everyone who's anyone is shipping Sprina, including Maura West and Finola Hughes, not a lot of people in Port Charles are shipping Sprina right now. One might make the argument that the only full-hearted Sprina shipper on the show is just Spencer. That's it. Even Trina's not actually like fully on board at the moment, but I took Jocelyn's response, like, of her kind of taking pity on him as like a and her, like, you know, slipping in that comment about Cam, about, she's like, well, I like it. She's like, I think Cam's hot when he's working at Kelly's, as an acknowledgement and maybe even like a little bit of encouragement of Spencer towards Trina. And so, you know, if Joss is like even half-heartedly team Sprina at this point, we'll take it, because Spencer could use some support. And of course, like, I want to see Spencer sweep Trina off to Paris on the Cassadine jet someday. I think that was also one of Nicholas's ideas for a storyline. But I think that's a part of the early appeal for Sprina fans, or at least for myself. Like, I was like, oh, Princess Trina's gonna get swept away. But I actually really love that Spencer's not gonna be able to do that. He's not gonna be able to rely on his money to woo her. And I think what will be interesting moving forward is him realizing that his currency with Trina is not his family name or money. Like, that's not what she cares about. She cares about him being vulnerable and honest, and also that he shows genuine interest in her, you know, like, who her favorite impressionist is, that super cheesy and sweet line that he fed her in the park way back when. And so can you imagine Cam even knowing what an impressionist is? I mean, come on. No. Sorry, Cam. But yeah, I really loved that kind of like Sprina presencing, even though it was like brief. Obviously, I talked about it probably 3 times longer than the actual scene was. So it's my deep reading, my close reading in the true English major fashion.
There we go. I have a set of rapid fire hot takes, and then we'll pass it to Tanya, because I know that it is Halloween and you gotta go flood that costume. And Sandra is gonna close us out with predictions. Rapid fire hot takes. Britt saying that Sam and Dante were not their friends. Hold on, okay? Don't be disrespectful, Britt. I've given up on getting Jason back as I knew and loved him, but don't do that. That is Sam's baby daddy. They had a song together, Britt. I don't know if you remember Baby, It's Just You and Me. I do remember it. That is his friend. The song is really good. I'm about to put it on a playlist. Anyway, Ava basically told Nita to use white woman tears to get out of trouble, and I fucking cackled. Cackled. Maura West can really make the most unlikable shit likable. Like, what can Maura West and Finola Hughes not do? Speaking of Finola Hughes, I was never a Finn and Anna person, but my lord, Finola Hughes could have, like, she has chemistry with herself. We've seen her play it when she played her sister. Like, she's so fucking amazing. My God. Because I, like, you know, obviously team Vanna all day over here, but I was like, oh yeah, I do remember Finn and Anna were kind of cute. And they were cute for a different reason. Finn and Anna is like what Anna would do if she settled down, but we know Anna not settling down, so that's why we got Vanna. Hate this autism storyline, period. Why is Sasha's belly bump so bad?
My God.
It is awful.
And she already had her, the actress already had her baby too.
Yes,
Which makes
and
it
it's
worse.
awful.
It looks
It's
awful.
awful. It's awful. Michael compared Nell to Nina, or Nina to Nell. I cracked up. And I just want to talk about how they did a DNA test via necklace. In the same way that they found Sunny via sauce. Anyway, Spencer saying things don't taste as good when you think about how to pay for them. Kid, I felt it. I felt it fucking deeply in my soul. I was like, you know what? Me and rich dude, same. We understand it the same. We need a kid scene with Violet and Avery like we had with Spencer, Josh, Cameron, and Emma. Those kids are fun and they're funny, and I would love to see more Charlotte as well. Gladys Austin team up? Question mark. I need a flashback of when Scott laughed at Esme when she called him. I need a flashback to happen now. Also, so Chase just be at the Quartermain mansion. Are they double dating with Milo? Because what's happening there? And my anti-capitalist skin crawled whenever I hear Jax talk about himself as a venture capitalism or capitalist. Ugh. Like, okay, Australia, Mitt Romney, keep it moving. And finally, Maxie's phone dying. Girl, your kid is fucking supposed to be missing. How's your phone dying?
She forgets.
And that is my rapid fire hot takes. Tanya, tell us.
And this may be unpopular. I don't know, it may be popular, but I hated. I mean, it's good for the drama and the story, plot, whatever. I hated that Sean went to Spencer to get the information. I just think it was very low and very disgusting. and it was obvious the way that Alexis was like, oh yeah, Spencer is Nicholas's Achilles heel and la 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 la. But I just think it's really horrible that he went to Spencer. And then not only kind of planted, he asked Spencer, can you help us get the confession? And then Spencer was like, no, I'm not, whatever. And then he follows him with Spinelli. I was like, really? This is how you want your justice, by traumatizing the son? It was horrible. I did not like it at all. But I mean, it was a great opportunity for Nicholas Chavez to have some great scenes. And so, but still, moral note, it was not cool.
I felt that. Like, I felt a little like Sean, but then I was also like,
right, like, ooh, this is gonna be good.
My hatred for Nicholas is like eclipsing my need to protect Spencer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is. It does. My heart broke a little bit when he was like, I don't want my father to go to jail. I'm like, here your daddy is trying to get you locked up and gave your damn inheritance to his ex-wife or his wife, and you like, I don't want my dad to go to jail.
Right. It's like, my dad really did this, and I was just like, oh my God.
And Sean was just like,
yep.
Well, he's trying to put you in jail for a crime that's not as bad. And you know what? I am Sean. You know what? Maybe protecting Spencer is actually putting Nicholas in camp prison.
But still,
all the abolitionist politics go out the window.
Right.
Am I a hypocrite? Yes. I don't care.
So what predictions do you have based off of this? I know the scene between Spencer and Nicholas is going to be, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, let's see. Here's my disclaimer. I'm no longer spoiler free. I tried, y'all. I tried impossible to be on Twitter and interact the way that I want to interact and be spoiler free. What I will say is that if you are really committed to being 100% spoiler free, you may want to check out now. But I'm gonna be spoiler light in that I do read the episode previews, so I know, and the episode previews don't really tell you much. They basically tell you what characters are going to be on and like vaguely what they might be doing, but they're usually misleading. So just I'm just sharing that for future notice. That's how I'm going to be operating with the predictions. Be warned. So Spencer and Nicholas, oh Lord. Well, I think Spencer is, I don't know that Nicholas is going to admit, but Spencer's going to know what Nicholas did. And so for a reminder for folks who don't remember, Hayden is also one of Spencer's stepmothers, an actual stepmother. And so he had a very similar relationship with her as he did with Britt. And so this is going to be pretty intense between the two of them. And what I'm hoping is that this also kind of frees up Spencer once, I think coming up, he's also going to have scenes with Alexis this week. And so I have a feeling that Spencer, Alexis, Sean, and now also Anna are going to be involved in some sort of downfall of Nicholas Cassidy's storyline. But what I ultimately hope for Spencer is that this actually gives him an opportunity to refocus his attention away from Nicholas. And seeing Nicholas for who he is as someone who was going to have his stepmother murdered might give Spencer some incentive to, focus on something else for a while. Obviously, they're going to continue to be in each other's orbit, but I hope it helps also undermine his relationship with Esme. Like that's the glue that holds their relationship together, is like revenge and getting access to the Cassadine fortune and all of that. And if Spencer decides like, I actually don't want to do with anything to do with any of that Cassadine shit, then what is actually holding him and Esme together? I'm also really excited to see Anna in on this Nicholas takedown. Like during that scene where she was questioning him and Ava, I was like, oh, I didn't think it could get any better, and here it is. So I'm looking forward to that playing out over the next few weeks. And I'm just going to put an intention out there that I want Nicholas to go to prison for a while. And then he comes back as Tyler Christopher. I'm saying that's a prediction. It's going to happen. And what else? With the Nixon Falls fallout, Sonny is going to side with Nina in the court proceedings. And it's going to be very embarrassing for Michael, obviously, because his revenge scheme is going to backfire. But also the truth about the nature of the relationship between Sonny and Nina, I think will come out really publicly, possibly in court. And it's going to be very humiliating for Carly. Like, just thinking about it is like thinking about the Scott's Tots episode from The Office. I'm neither anti-Carly nor pro-Carly. Like, I'm Carly neutral, but I'm like, this aspect of the storyline, I'm like, please just get it over with. I'm tired of anticipating it. It's very uncomfortable. And I'm still one of the Willow is Nina's daughter conspiracy holdouts. We've still not seen a DNA test. And so we've never confirmed that Nell is Nina's biological daughter. The actress that plays Harmony is on contract. And so we're going to be seeing more of her. I know she's in the previews for the next couple weeks. And I hope that part of her story is a reveal that she's not Willow's biological mother. And there's going to be more Esme stuff coming up this week. She's going to be starting her internship at Spring Ridge. And so it's time. I made the call. I've been making the call that this is going to be the week. I'm going to go ahead and claim this as Halloween week. I'm still also hoping that we'll see some costumes, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But I'm claiming this as the week that we actually get some real information about who Esme is. And finally, haters be damned. Sprina is rising, my friends. I call a Trina Spencer alone scene this week. I think he's going to process finding out about Nicholas with Trina. And I don't think we're gonna get a kiss this week. I know that the Sprina fans are like trying to like hobble together both like the spoilers and the like information from the event to try and like piece together when the kiss is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen this week. It might happen during sweeps, but I think we're going to start seeing the more regular Sprina interactions, processing parent stuff together, and also something else that's going to bring them together. I don't know what yet, but some other plot point that's going to have them in connection on a more regular basis. Sprina is rising, and those are my predictions.
I want you and Nicholas Chavez to write some Sprina fan fiction.
Nicholas, I'm open for collaboration.
You can do some interpretive reading on the podcast. You know, I can do a monologue. I'm very ready for it. It was great talking to y'all.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to this all week. I feel like I got some of my hot takes off my chest.
Do you guys think that Valentine's gonna find out about Bailey?
Yes.
On Monday? No.
I think
no, not on Monday.
But I said before that I didn't think it was going to happen during sweeps, and I think I'm wrong. I think it is going to happen during sweeps, and it's not going to happen on Monday.
Gladys is too messy to hold that.
No, like, she still needs she needs more time to blackmail BLQ. So she at least needs a couple week of like good solid blackmailing.
Yeah.
And hopefully more Valentine and Gladys. I was just saying, hopefully more Valentine and Gladys scenes.
Yeah. I think the way she was kind of flirting with them.
Well, because do you remember that their other scenes together?
Oh, that's right. He was flirting with her to get information out of her. And so now she feels that she can go back and do the same thing. Yeah, that's him. Or have Anna come in the middle and Anna be like,
Anna would not even be pressed about it. She would be like, oh, he's doing something shady because this is definitely not it.
No, but I just want to see the side eyes on her face. Just like watching Gladys in the room. Like she walks into the hospital room and see Gladys all up on him. I just want to see her expression. That would be comedy.
Her side eyes when it has something to do with Valentine, like with Nicholas, she's like, oh, that's interesting. Because last time I checked, like, you better defend your man.
Right.
I'll rewatch those scenes actually when we're done.
Well, y'all, this is show number 8. We've been doing this for 2 months. Thank you for listening.
Just yesterday, and like we've been doing it forever.
I know.
Yeah.
As I gaze into the distance. Anyway, happy Halloween, y'all. Thanks for being on. Thanks for watching and listening. If you are watching with us, like look out for clips that are expertly cut by our own Sandra. Yeah. We'll talk to y'all next week. Bye.
Eat Brussels sprouts.